Betty asks, do you see Leiter as a late inning reliever or an additional closer? In September, could the closing role be shared by Weaver, Holmes, and Leiter? I have a strong opinion on this. I'll go to you first, though, Stace.
You are Locked On Yankees, your daily New York Yankees podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Yankees, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making us your first listen every day. I'm Stacey Gotsoulias. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use code all lowercase LockedOnMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. With me, as usual, my co-host, Brian McKeon. Brian, it's another Friday. We're here.
Yep, and a lot to break down.
Yeah, well, for Fanmail Friday, a lot of questions. We're not breaking down anything. We're not talking about anything negative because I'm not in the mood after sitting through two awful games by the Yankees in the last 24 hours. Before we get started, don't forget, subscribe to the podcast on whichever podcasting platform you prefer. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube, like our videos, hit the bell so you're notified when those videos go up. So coming up on the show, we're going to briefly preview the Rangers series, which, that might be full of rain as well. And yeah, we'll see how that goes. But first, it's Fanmail Friday, like we do every Friday. If you want to be a part of it, leave your question under the pinned comment on YouTube. Good job by the YouTube people. Actually, very good job by the YouTube people this week. Not many duplicate questions. So I was very happy about that. Thank you for that. It makes my life a lot easier when I don't have to choose. It's like Sophie's Choice. I don't want to have to do that. It's a lot. It's not good. All right. So how do we usually start Fanmail Friday, Brian? Who do we usually start with?
Betty.
Here we go.
And Betty asks, do you see Leiter as a late inning reliever or an additional closer? In September, could the closing role be shared by Weaver, Holmes, and Leiter? I have a strong opinion on this. I'll go to you first, though, Stace.
Yes. I think it should be closer by committee because there are situations when Holmes can come in and close because there are times when he looks perfectly fine. I don't think he should be the main closer. And I don't think the Yankees will, but I also feel like the Yankees won't deviate from that plan, if that makes sense. I think there should be a closer by committee, but I feel like the Yankees are like, he's our closer, he's our man, and they're not going to change anything.
I do think this should be a closer by committee in a sense of we're going to try and find our guy, and then we're going to have our guy for October. I think once you get to the postseason, you can't run a system where it's every man for themselves, go figure it out and get the outs necessary. Like, you need to have a ninth inning guy. You need it because there's a role to it. There's a preparation to it. There's a lot that goes into it where you're preparing for that spot, right? That both mentally, physically, you're getting ready for that ninth inning role. So I don't think you could have one where you're just going to switch and flip-flop every single inning of who's going to come in, who's not going to come in. I don't think you could possibly do that. I don't think it's going to be Leiter. I view Leiter as a seventh, eighth inning, filthy strikeout stuff.
Are you thinking Tonkin?
That's who my guy is. I think Tonkin or Weaver. Both have strikeout stuff. Both have been pitching really well of late. Both tend to avoid putting the ball in play. And I think, listen, if you watch playoff baseball enough in your life, weird stuff happens when the ball goes in play. It just does. When the ball is put in play, guys get nervous, balls get dropped. It happens. And I really think that, a guy like Clay Holmes, it's a recipe for disaster in a big playoff game, especially not being, behind, not being in front of the 0-9 defense. So it's not a simple task. Not saying that Clay Holmes can't have a purpose in this playoff roster, but I don't think it's a closer.
Okay, thank you for the question, Betty. Next one comes from David F., another insider. Hey guys, why do you think teams have moved away from fixed setup men and closer roles? I loved the Flash Gordon Rivera combo. That's a throwback.
I don't think teams have really moved away from it necessarily, though.
I don't think so
teams
either.
have their own set closer, and most teams have their own set late inning guys. I think they've changed up the 6th, 7th, 8th inning role kind of based on importance, which, if I'm going to be honest with you, I think is the way that a bullpen should be managed. Or like, I think it's important to have one guy in the 9th inning because there's a lot of preparation to that, both mentally and physically. That I totally understand. But having a guy that's reserved for big time spots, I think is far more important than having a guy that's set for the 7th or 8th inning. What did the Yankees have a few years ago when they had Andrew Miller, right? Remember that bullpen? It wound up being Betances in the 7th, Miller in the 8th, and Chapman in the 9th. This to me makes much more sense to do it the way the team's been doing over the last few years.
No runs, DMC.
Yeah, I mean, listen, that bullpen was filthy and it was really shut down. But I don't know if that's necessarily the right way to run a bullpen, right? Whereas this to me makes so much more sense the way teams modernly been doing it. I don't know if you feel that way, but that's the way I look at it.
Yeah, I just feel like the game's changed and there are different ways to do things now. And, we talk about it all the time, how starters don't last as long. You need the bullpen to go longer. Sometimes you can switch guys out where, sometimes you have a guy pitch the 6th and sometimes you have him pitch the 8th, depending on the situation. Like there's no set in stone thing other than the closer, usually for a team. It's like a mix and match kind of a situation.
There's also much more of an importance put on the bullpen nowadays too.
Well, yeah.
I think, 10, 15 years ago, you could make the postseason and potentially make a run with not so great of a bullpen. And now, I mean, pick out the last team that won a pennant and didn't, at bare minimum, have their bullpen pitching really well at the moment. It's really hard to find that.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that question, David F.
Stacey, KCC, I mean, you have a million candidates for this question, but the most exciting game that you have been to. I'll get mine out of the way. Mine's easy. It was game 4 of the 2017 ALCS, the comeback, the judge homer, the double at the end, the Sanchez double. Easy one. Go ahead. I mean, I don't even know what you're going to answer at this point. You have so many amazing games.
Yeah, because we've answered this before, but we have every week we have new viewers, so the new viewers don't know the answer to this question. That's why I, was like, all right, we'll put it in the show. All right. I still think the most exciting game that I've been to was game 4 of the 2001 World Series. They're like down the whole time. And then Tino comes up, ties it in the bottom of the 9th with 2 outs. And
you have so many though.
I know. And then Jeter walks off and even actually the game 4 before that against Seattle, when I was complaining to my brother that I hadn't seen a walk-off home run in the playoffs, and not even 2 seconds later, Alfonso Soriano walked off, and I was like, I thought that was me. I was like, oh, I did that because I mentioned it. So he had a walk-off home run. But yeah, no, there have been a lot of exciting ones, but those are my exciting playoff games. Oh, and game 2 against the Angels too in 2009, that really long, cold, damp game. That was, especially the way it ended on the error and Hairston scoring and then falling over. And, it was like such a long game too.
I was at that wild card game in 2017 also. I think that one's up there too. That was an insane game too. The Didi home run. Oh.
Yeah.
But this next question, I feel like we've answered a bunch of times too, but I feel like we have a good answer for too.
Can Luis Gil be an effective closer in the playoffs given his tendency to walk batters? I was thinking about this when I was putting the questions together. I think there's a different mindset when you come into a game knowing that you're only going to throw a limited amount of pitches to a limited amount of batters. Like when you go in as a starter, it's completely different than when you go in as a reliever. So I don't think the walks will really, I mean, he might, but it's not going to be the same because it's a different way of coming into a game.
You're not pitching as carefully. You're in there in attack mode. And you're in there to get out of the situation, get out of the game. That's what you're in there to do. And I think him I think out of anyone on the team, definitely this season, right? So I think overall Gerrit Cole's at the top of this list. But for this season, I'd say Luis Gil's got the filthiest stuff, the best strikeout stuff of any Yankee pitcher this year. Again, I think Gerrit Cole overall has better stuff. But Luis Gil this season has been better. And he's been a straight-up strikeout artist all year. He's been striking out a ton of guys, a ton of great performances. That's exactly what you need in a postseason game. right?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly what you need in a big spot. You need the strikeouts. You need the big plays. So I think he's exactly what you order. I think he's exactly what you need. Does this year start the Manfred runner on second base during the playoffs? Because if it does, that's another thing that you're going to need a lot too. You're going to need a strikeout guy. Like that. That's my point though. And I don't know if it starts this year. I'll look it up and bring it to you in the next segment so you know for sure. But if that's the truth, you're going to need strikeout artists, because if a game goes into extra innings and you have Clay Holmes putting the ball in play, they're going to find a way to get the run in. Right. So it's you're going to need a guy that's a strikeout artist. And when you have a guy like Luis Gil, who's got that filthy slider, who's got the fastball that, he's throwing at 101 miles an hour, you're going to need that. And I think his most effective role going forward is out of the bullpen. I really, really do.
All right, quickly, last question from our last insider.
Who would you pick from the current roster to be the next Yankee SNL host?
And that is from
really
Lauren.
Oh, yeah,
I
Lauren.
think Judge.
I disagree. I don't think Judge has the personality for it.
Oh, I do, because he's been on Jimmy Fallon. He's done stuff where he's shown off his personality. I think you could get him to do it. I think he would actually be. Jr. Yeah, but
I know he's a new Yankee, but he's fun.
I know, but
he's
the SNL
fun. He's got a personality.
Aaron Judge is really tall and huge, and it'd be funny if they made him do like really goofy things because he's tall and huge, and New York loves him. So I think
I agree. I'm not arguing that New York loves him or not. I'm just saying he doesn't have that outgoing, like, bravado personality that I think he need. Neither did Jeter, I don't think.
Yeah, Jeter didn't either, but he
let them. The perfect SNL host would have been for those Yankee teams. Nick Swisher.
Oh well, perfect. Yeah, definitely. I think that's it for all the insider questions, right? Yeah. Thank you, insiders. Thank you very much. Don't forget, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button on our videos, hit the notification so you know when our videos go up. And if you would like to be part of next week's Fanmail Friday, reply to the pinned comment on our videos Monday through Thursday, or you can join the Insiders Club. You get into segment 1, and if there are a lot of questions, you might be pushed back into segment 2, but you still get top priority. There's a link in the description, and it isn't only for Fanmail Friday. You get texts from us about roster moves and weird lineups. Sometimes I like sending out lineups just to get reactions from the insiders. And there's a 14-day free trial, and the insiders love it. So coming up next, more Fanmail Friday. It's summer, and we all need to keep cool and stay hydrated. So when you're taking in America's pastime, don't forget to hydrate with Liquid IV's Popsicle Firecracker flavor, a surefire summer hit. Get hydrated with electrolytes, essential vitamins, and clinically tested nutrients from the #1 powdered hydration brand in America, because baseball and summer go together like Liquid IV and indulgent hydration. Blast off with the iconic summer flavor of Popsicle Firecracker, a festive blend of citrus-fueled lemon lime, tart cherry, and raspberry flavors. By the way, the packaging looks like the Rocket Popsicle, the red, white, and blue. That's the flavor of this thing. It looks amazing. Find all your favorite flavors on their website, from lemon lime to pina colada. I love strawberry lemonade. I drink it after workouts. It's perfect. Tear, pour, live more. 1 stick and 16 ounces of water hydrates better than water by itself. It also has 3 times the electrolytes of the leading sports drink and 8 essential vitamins and nutrients. No more thirsty summers when you indulge in hydration with Liquid IV. Get 20% off your first order of Liquid IV when you go to liquidiv.com and use code MLB at checkout. That's 20% off your first order when you shop Better Hydration today using promo code MLB at liquidiv.com. Locked On Yankees is also sponsored by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your #1 ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply, and eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. Welcome back, and thank you for making Locked On Yankees your first listen today. For your second listen, enjoy the Locked On MLB podcast. Host Paul Sullivan, aka Sully, is here daily to provide national expertise with his trademark humor to get you ready for the MLB playoffs here in the dog days of summer. Prepare for the Fall Classic with Sully, who has it all covered every single day on Locked On MLB. Available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Don't forget, you can catch every pitch of the Yankees hometown broadcast with SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search the word Yankees. So now we're up to our YouTube questions, and there were a bunch of you, so thank you for this. First up, Des the Gem 9522, who asks, do you think the intentional walks should be taken out of the game, or that there should be some sort of limit per game?
I've heard the arguments on both sides of this. No, I don't. It's been a part of the game.
Right. Do they even happen enough where it's a problem?
Yeah, and it's been a part of the game for 100 years. You can't just remove it now because Aaron Judge got affected by it for a week.
Right.
And it feels like, too, the way the Angels series went, that Schneider was the only one that was going to utilize this, and no one else in baseball is going to follow suit. Was it annoying? Yes. And do I understand the argument that in other sports you don't get the opportunity to take the ball out of the best player's hand? Yes, but you can't do anything about it, really.
Right.
Why the Yankees stopped this? Putting better players around Aaron Judge.
There you go. Thank you for the question, Des.
Let's go to Zach Maud 9686. What relief pitchers on the injured list should be coming back soon? And out of the guys returning, who do you think can have the biggest impact in the playoffs? I think Ian Hamilton, weirdly enough. He's got really good stuff. Again, another guy, really good strikeout stuff. Kind of been hidden all year, and I think this is a key too. Guys that haven't pitched all year, they're weirdly enough, they're coming into it with a much fresher arm.
Sure.
And I don't really think I can explain it properly, but like, it's not a benefit because you want them there the entire year.
Sure.
But Stacey, I mean, when these guys come back and they come back later on, and their arms are much fresher and there's much less eggs in their arm, for some reason those guys come back really, really firing and looking to prove something more often than not.
Right. That's true. I agree that he probably would have the biggest impact coming back, because there are other relief pitchers on the injured list that we haven't seen all year that we probably won't see because you haven't heard anything about some of these guys that have, were on their way back. And then it's kind of like, oh, we haven't heard about Trevino or Efros in a while.
Yeah,
what's going on with them?
They love Birdie too.
Yeah.
They love Birdie too, but like he hasn't appeared much all year. So it's hard to really trust those guys if they haven't been on the team in forever. I mean, what are you supposed to do with that,
Right. Thank you for the question, Zach. Next up, Dixon Trajano, I want to say. Is it time to worry about Gerrit Cole's pitching performances? It seems he is not fully ramped up yet and is not his usual dominant self. And that's Dixon from the Philippines. We have people from all over. There's someone else in segment 3 from another country. We'll see it later, but it's so cool that we have people from all over the world listening and watching our show.
Really appreciate it. And I got good news for you, Dixon. I wouldn't be worried at all. I think Gerrit Cole is one of the best pitchers in the league, one of the best pitchers in all of baseball. Wouldn't bother me one bit. He'll figure things out. Like I think you
figured things out later in the start the other day. Like, It started off rough and then you saw he was hitting like 99 and he was pitching a lot better. And talking about fresh arms again, he's going to be fresh down the stretch. Yeah.
You put the ball in his hands in a big spot. I have a full amount of confidence in him.
Yeah, I agree. Okay.
Marvy G says, what are the chances that Soto re-signs if we don't go on a long playoff run?
0.
Yeah, I don't know if it necessarily matters to him. I don't think his mind's gonna be up until free agency hits.
Right.
Like he's one of the guys that I genuinely believe is not gonna think about it much until the season ends. I think he's gonna go through with the playoffs, play through the whole thing, and then see where his mind's at. Like everyone talks about the Mets being the top competitor for him, Stacey. Well, if the Yankees don't make a long playoff run, the Mets might not make the playoffs. So what does that say to him? You know, so I don't think he's gonna make up his mind until the postseason's over.
Right. We're going to add one more because we have time.
Bonus.
Yes. So let me just get it up in the rundown. Okay. Last question of segment 2 from Morris83. Who's more likely to regain good starting pitching form, Nestor or Stroman?
I wonder how you feel about this. Who do you think?
Well, not Nestor. Stroman's actually working on something right now where Nestor isn't.
Yeah, I have
Nestor's
more faith.
Just going out there and doing what he's doing. And
I have more faith in Stroman figuring things out. He's a vet. He's not that Nestor's not a veteran, but Stroman has a much bigger track record of success in the past.
Yep.
Nestor doesn't really have that. And I got to be honest with you too. I listened to a little bit of part of the post game. It was on in the background for me when I was getting ready for the show. And I don't like when I hear athletes complain and don't take on the responsibility of a loss themselves. Nestor was complaining about the wetness out there, the conditions not being great. When you don't pitch well, no one wants to hear about how this or that or the other wasn't great.
Right.
Go out there and pitch.
Right.
So I really think that didn't help the cause either. I think I have a lot more faith in Stroman figuring things out going forward than I do in Nestor.
I agree. I saw someone compare what Nestor did in 22 to it being like his version of Linsanity. You know what I mean? Like it was that time where he was just right, but the baseball version of Linsanity, where this guy comes out of nowhere, does amazing things, and then kind of and
regresses to what he actually is.
Like, oh, that's interesting. And yeah, out of those two, I agree. Stroman has more of a track record than Nestor, and I think that I would trust him more to regain his form now.
For sure.
So, all right, coming up next, more questions from YouTube, and we're going to do a quick preview of the Rangers series, which begins tonight in the Bronx.
PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. And unlike other apps, on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000. With the NBA season over, the hoops action doesn't stop on PrizePicks. Women's basketball is still heating up, and with stars like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese looking to make names for themselves, alongside greats like Brianna Stewart and Aja Wilson, you can win up to 100 times your cash watching them ball out. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match of $200. That's code one word LOCKEDONMLB on PrizePicks for a deposit match of up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day, along with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows that are covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now, available on the free Fire TV channels app. Stacey, a few more questions, and then we'll break down the Yankees Rangers series. Coming up, rematch of the 2011 ALCS and 2010, now, if I'm not mistaken, right? Is it 2010? Yeah, 2010. I know it's definitely 2010.
It's 2010. 2011 was Detroit.
Detroit, there you go.
In the DS.
Not fun times. Teams that definitely should have done more. Yeah. Let's start with Mr. Mallory 94. Do you foresee a 6-man rotation when Schmidt returns? I don't. I think it goes to 5 men, and I think right now, if it were to go the way it's going, I think Nestor would be, unfortunately removed from the rotation.
Mm-hmm. I would agree with that. By the way, Mr. Mallory, I included you this week. I got you in. because last week there were 2 people I forgot to put in. I had to add them in when I was editing. I felt horrible about it. And this week I made sure both of them, I believe, got in. Eric S. Insider and Mr. Mallory. So thank you for submitting questions again. I apologize for that last week. I made the graphics, and for some reason, those 2 questions got left out of the rundown. Stuff happens sometimes. I'm so sorry. Our next question from regular Vincent M. Durham, who also likes to join us in the chat when our videos premiere late at night. So he is an everydayer, and I appreciate him asking questions pretty much every week. He asks, do you all think that the playoff format in postseason should be changed? Like, for example, in the division series, instead of being 2-2-1, it goes 3-2. And in the league championship series and World Series rounds, instead of being 2-3-2, it goes 4-3. Interesting, because it would give the higher seeds home field advantage. Keep up the great work, Stacey and Brian.
I think the higher seeds always deserve better advantages, but I'm confused what he's asking. What's 2-2-1? What is 3-2? What's the difference? I'm confused.
I guess 3 at home to start and then 2 on the road.
No, that makes no sense to me, because then the elimination game isn't in your home ballpark.
Right. Yeah.
Like if it's going to go to elimination game as a higher seed, don't you want that game in your ballpark?
I would think so.
Yeah. I wouldn't agree with that at all. I think the format they have right now of 2-2, 1-1-1 is the perfect format.
Yeah.
That's the way I think it is. It works in every sport. I don't know why it wouldn't work in baseball.
Right. Yeah. I think so. I think that would, the way it is fine.
Yeah. I don't think you need to change it. I don't even like 2-3-2. I know some sports have tried that before.
Yeah.
I don't even like that, to be honest with you, because I think then it gives the lower seed a little bit too much of a disadvantage. When games 6 and 7 would both be on the road, I don't think that's fair either.
Yeah. Well, that's how it was
for years.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think the 2-2, 1-1-1 is the perfect format. I really do.
Yeah. I would agree with that. And our last Fan Mail Friday question.
Last of the week.
Yeah. You get this one.
Yep. Luke 43-168 says, change in the front office strategy. Zoom out question here. These are the New York Yankees, and they have 1 championship in 24 years and 0 in the last 15. Despite all the success defined as being over 500 and getting consistently to the playoffs, this stretch is nearly unprecedented in their history. Comments from Stacey and Brian on Friday, showing others. Thanks and greetings from Luke in Perugia, Italy, originally from New Jersey. We got the fans everywhere, Stacey. We really do.
I know. It's amazing. Belgium, Italy, Philippines. I know there are people in England who listen to the show. I know there are people in Greece. You should look at my name. Thank you. Well, yes, there should be a change there should be a change in the front office.
Will there be one though? No.
No.
Like if Cashman's not going to change his philosophy, he hasn't changed it in 20 years. Why would he start now?
Right.
And again, like I get what you're saying that, 1 championship in 25 years, it's unprecedented and it's not right. I think we all need to sometimes step back and smell the roses a little bit. The Yankees are winning a ton of championships when there were much less teams in the league and they're the only team that could spend any money. It's a different era. It's a different sport. At the end of the day, they make the postseason every year. They're not just 500 every year. They're well above 500 for the most part. Every single year, they have one of the most competitive teams in baseball every single year. That's really hard to find in sports nowadays. Again, I know it's been 1 title. They deserve a little more credit on the other side, though, of how good they have been and how consistent they have been over the last 25 years. Right.
It just shows you how hard it is to do what they did in the late 90s. Like, you're not going to see that again. You're really not going to see that again. When you do see teams get championships close together, there's usually a couple of seasons between or some sort of thing happening. Like maybe, like with Boston, how they, every time they won, they would be horrible like the year before, completely do a total rebuild and then build themselves back up and win a championship and then go be bad again. I mean, the difference between 2012 and 2013 for the Red Sox, 2012 was the Bobby Valentine year, and then 2013 they come back and win the World Series. The Yankees won't have that happen.
No, and teams figure out how to beat you. They figure out how to pitch to you. They figure out how to get around your lineup. It's such a different sport nowadays. You're not going to see a run like the late 90s Yankees ever again.
No.
It's not sustainable.
Nope.
And especially with free agency, especially with the amount of teams competing nowadays, it's not possible to do what they did. Was it unbelievably impressive? Yeah. But you're not going to see something like that ever again. You're not going to see something like that in sports ever again. The closest we have is the Warriors, and they couldn't do it. So I get what you're saying. I understand when you take into account the organization's history, it seems unprecedented to go this long without winning multiple titles. But at the end of the day, they do have one title in the last 15 years. And how many teams in sports would kill for that? Trust me, as a New York Rangers fan, I'd kill for a title in the last 15 years.
Me too.
Yeah, it's
as
been
a
one
Knicks fan.
Yeah. It's been 3 titles for the Rangers and Knicks in the last 100 years.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, when you take it into account that way, this is not common in sports to have as many. Any Yankee fan pretty much older than me has seen them win multiple times. Yeah.
I've been alive for 7. I've been alive for 7, but I've been cognizant of 5. I sort of remember 78, but I'll say my first real memories were 81 and beyond. And so I remember 5 of them.
I've been alive for 4. I've been cognizant for 1. And the one that I was cognizant for, I was in 7th grade. Yeah. So you can imagine how much I appreciated that championship. Not very much.
Yeah, I appreciated 96 because I had just turned 22, and it was like my whole schooling career was basically like, the Yankees haven't won in this long. Ugh. So, yeah, that was fun.
Going through your whole younger 20s.
I was actually, well, hey, this is what I always tell people. Us 1974 babies, the Yankees played in Shea Stadium, which is embarrassing enough, but they won their 24th, 25th, and 26th championships when we turned 24, 25, and 26, which is pretty cool.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. All right, quickly. These are the pitching matchups for Rangers, Yankees this weekend. Cody Bradford against Carlos Rodon on Friday. Nathan Eovaldi versus Gerrit Cole on Saturday. They pushed Marcus Stroman to Sunday against Andrew Heaney. So not easy because the Rangers aren't doing great this year, but they have they can win games. I mean,
and they're desperate.
And yes, you just saw the Yankees lose to a not so great Angels team. So they need to come out and remember that they're the Yankees. Remember that they're playing at home. I really don't understand why this team has trouble playing at home and they do better on the road. But that's just the way things are going this season. You got to be careful with teams like this. You really do. The teams that are chasing other teams and that are getting desperate late in the year, they're going to try different things and they're going to be a little more risk takers. And you got to be careful with that. Friday starts 7:05. Sunday's start is going to be 1:00. Saturday start is going to be 1:05. And then Sunday start is going to be 1:35. And Sunday's an MLB Network game. Yeah, I think the most important one out of all this is Stroman, just to see if what he worked on helps, because I think that's the most important start out of all of them. I'm actually not to the Friday start too. I'm actually not worried about Rodon. I'm not for some reason. Yeah, I'm not. I don't know why. And Cole, I think, will be fine also. I'm just worried about how the hitters are going to do against Eovaldi on Saturday. I'm interested. I'm not worried about Rodon. I'm intrigued, though, to see if he can continue, because he's got 3 starts in a row now where he's been really dominant. I'm really intrigued to see if he can continue it. Yeah, hopefully he will. One more time, you can catch every pitch of the Yankees hometown broadcast with SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search the word Yankees. We'd like to thank you for making Locked On Yankees your first listen today. Now go check out the Locked On MLB podcast. Prepare for the Fall Classic with Sully, who has it all covered every single day. You can find the link to Locked On MLB in the description, so you don't need to search. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Coming up next week, we'll be recapping the series against the Rangers, previewing the series against the White Sox in Chicago and the Tigers in Detroit. And of course, we'll start the week with Miners Monday. So that's going to do it for this edition of Locked On Yankees. I'm Stacey Gotsoulias. And I'm Brian McKeon. We'll see you next week.